Live everywhere.
Daily Co's Radio on netrootsradio.com presents
David Waldman, Kagro in the Morning Show. Now, here's David Waldman.
Okay, hey, good morning. Another late start thanks to basketball camp and the traffic surrounding basketball camp. What a popular basketball camp it is. It also has summer school going on at the high school there, so a little bit of a traffic jam getting in and out. But we're here, we're ready to start. Does anybody know anything about the news or politics? If so, please call 1-800. We got to get you on the air. Did you watch the convention yesterday? I didn't even turn it on yesterday, but I, of course, am always watching the watchers, and I understand Donald Trump Jr. spoke yesterday. Best comment I heard summarizing the night's events yesterday was from former Representative John Dingell, who I guess tweets for himself, and he really lets loose when he does that. So he just sort of thought that was interesting, and said his comment was, "Holy hell, the kids are orange too." It's amazing. We wonder what's going on over there. I guess everybody's getting the spray tan. I guess they think that looks good, and it's something they do before they go on television, so they don't look pale, but a little bit of just regular makeup usually. They have makeup that'll make you look regular color, no matter what your color is. I think they can figure out what your normal skin tone is and give that to you, but I don't know. Anyway, that's what they're doing, painting themselves orange. I've been collecting ridiculous pictures, photographs taken of the Trump family, the various incarnations of them, I guess, well, it's been real interesting. Bill in Portland, Maine starts us off with a morning tweet today. Daily Coast Radio is live now, starring, Kagro X, that's me, David Waldman. Dem from Connecticut, of course, you know as Greg Dworkin, and Joan McCarter, probably best known to you as Joan McCarter, or occasionally, if you're a real old-timer, Mick Joan. Get it? And, of course, the ghost of Saul Alinsky as Bob. Who is Saul Alinsky? Why do you guys keep thinking he's so important to you? So I have no idea. I mean, I have some idea now over the years, having read how important you think he is out there. And I don't mean you, because you are not listening. You who are listening have some idea, of course, and really probably think it's pretty humorous that they insist that he's guiding our every step. Wow. Anyway, so... By the way, speaking of the crazy pictures that I liked so much, the one that grabbed my eye yesterday, who tweeted this one? I think I can track down exactly who did it, or at least who did it so that I saw it. I believe Dean Barker is the culprit in this one, our New Hampshire pal, Dean Barker. A photo of Donald Trump at of course, a white piano. So much going on in that. The white grand piano, baby grand piano, I guess, to match his baby hands. And Melania is on top of the piano. You know how that goes. Like, women on top of a piano. That's, I don't know what, like, that's the stock photo, I guess, sexy, sultry thing to do. They're both trying to put on these sultry looks. Melania has a credible go of it. She's made up, hair's up, in a little black dress, crazy shoes, whatever. It doesn't look quite as ridiculous, I suppose, minus, once you get past the fact she's on a piano, 2, she's on a white piano, 3, I always love the photographs of that are taken of them in, I guess, the Trump Tower penthouse, because, I mean, it's so ridiculously decorated. I mean, I guess people who had time on their hands because they refused to decorate same-sex wedding cakes must have had extra production time. It came in and put some kind of gold icing on the walls. The place is nuts. It looks like Gaddafi's palace. And people have been doing a great job putting together pictures of Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein and Donald Trump in their native surroundings, and it's ridiculous. And I guess just like some people say that Newt Gingrich is a dumb person's idea of what a smart person sounds like, it's clear to me that Donald Trump is I don't know if this is a poor person's, but I guess a person who's never had any exposure to anybody with any money. I guess it's their idea of, it's more than a poor person. I guess it goes across classes, but maybe just a dumb person's idea of what a rich person's surroundings might look like. Everything's golden, I mean, like a joke. He's got a gold toilet. And the walls are gold and gilded picture frames. And there's behind them in this picture. I'll tweet it out again, I guess. But behind them in this photo, there are ridiculous candelabras on a sideboard or something. It's on, a table underneath an oil painting of a still life of, fruit or whatever and plants. But it's in a giant gilded frame and with a big old light on it, so like we'll illuminate this artwork, and that'll make it classy. And then the gold paint on the wall, gold crown moldings, and fake pillars. Anyway, these two candelabras frame the picture that's above it, and frame an antique, gold cake-looking clock that I'm sure doesn't work. Each of the candelabras has got, long white tapers in it, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candles apiece. There's 12 candles, probably in the space of about a foot. None of them have ever been lit, because why would you light them? And anyway, Donald is at the piano, and Melania, like I said, is in this skimpy-ish black dress, and, big giant earrings and jewelry and everything. Donald's in a suit, because what else are you going to put him in? I mean, you're going to put him in one of those thongs that say, "Where's the beef?" I don't know. He's trying to put on his best sultry, sexy look. He looks like he smells something terrible, is what it looks like. He's got one arm, elbow up on top of the piano. No fingers on the keyboard, of course. You don't want to see how small his fingers are. Pink tie. He just looks like an idiot. Because he's an idiot. He's just a dumb person's idea of, I guess, what a rich person looks like trying to look sexy. And it just looks like somebody farted. It's not interesting, except for the comedy value. Anyway, I'll send it again. I guess I'll be retweeting myself. But there's no sense in, don't make me retweet myself, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so it's really amazing. Look, here's some news. Rebecca Roman says Ryan Bundy tried to escape from a 228-foot tall maximum security jail. I've never heard a jail described in terms of its height before. But I guess that's important because he had a 15-foot rope. And I guess he figured he could just climb down 15 feet, untie it, tie it in a knot to the bottom, and climb the next 15 feet. I don't know what he thought he was doing. Maybe he was trying to hang himself. I don't know. Anyway, I guess I can open that up and take a look at the story, or perhaps later. And we'll see whether Greg Dworkin is coming by with his regular raft of stories. I haven't seen the notes that usually sometimes get thrown overboard ahead of time when he's making his way over. But, all right. And we also, of course, it being Wednesday, we'll be looking forward to speaking with Joan McCarter about, I don't know, Congress isn't there. So I expect that she'll want to talk a little bit about the craziness of the Republican convention, which I believe she has been on hand. The crew has been working hard, live blogging what goes on, although it's really, you know what, here's an interesting story. Sort of sideline to the whole thing. The place is so crazy. Perhaps no one else can cover it except us, and we refuse to do it. At least here on Daily Kos Radio. On the front page, they're working hard to try to do it, and it can only be covered by people who are willing to tell you what's really going on. It must be just a disaster trying to figure out in the newsroom what can you say, what can't you say, what's safe to do, what's not safe to do. We were contacted the other day by the Clinton campaign, just as part of their regular media rounds, to see whether, because we have a radio program, to see whether we might be interested in speaking to a surrogate of one kind or another for the campaign about what's going on this week in the Republican convention. This is what their surrogates do. This is what their bookers for their surrogates do. And the contact came. Here's a nice little bit of information. You probably follow her on Twitter as well, Zerlina Maxwell, and read what she's published all over the place. She's working directly for the Clinton campaign. She's the one that contacted us to ask, so, you guys interested in having a surrogate on? Let us know. And it's a great offer, and I thought, wow, gee whiz, I wonder what kind of surrogate we can get. And it occurred to me, I'm not 100% sure that we could keep a surrogate here comfortably. I think when it comes to making fun, certainly, and that's what we're trying to do, of Trump himself, the Republican Party, and its collapse, etc. It would be interesting to have a, fact-based, wonkish sort of analysis of what's going on, but I think it's probably a lot drier coming from just about any campaign surrogate I can think of. But if they've got a great one, by all means, we'll try it out. Maybe the fun will be in trying to see them struggle with finding a way that is interesting to our audience of saying anything about the convention that doesn't make them or the campaign uncomfortable. I think it would be a rather difficult assignment. But the door's open, certainly. And if any of you can think of anybody that you've seen around as a surrogate that you would want to hear from, I guess we can make that suggestion, although, of course, the convention is nearly over. But who knows what we might be able to pull together in the next couple of days. I guess we should ask for Rendell and just yell at him. How about that? What the hell's wrong with you, Rendell? It would be like he would think he was coming on friendly air, and we'd be having very little of that. He's a tough guy to get along with from a progressive standpoint sometimes, don't you think? Anyway, okay. Well, Ryan Bundy's 15-foot escape plan comes up short, sure enough. Reported in the Oregonian, just for a little bit of fun sideline. Let's see. Oh, look at this. They're exiting. There's a picture of the attorney, Mike Arnold, exiting the Mark O. Hatfield U.S. Courthouse in Portland. Remember Mark Hatfield? On January 29th, following a detention hearing for Ammon Bundy. Ammon Bundy? What does he say? Anyway, here's what Ryan is up to. Ryan told the judge that the braided bed sheets, extra food, and clothes that deputies found in his jail cell in April weren't part of any escape scheme. That's probably for the best. Oh, he didn't actually try to do it. His 15 feet of makeshift rope wouldn't have gotten him too far down the nearly 228-foot tall Justice Center building that holds the maximum security jail. Oh, it's a high-rise tower. I see. I'm thinking, like, what did they put him in some kind of Transylvanian castle on a cliff? Not a bad idea, but I don't want to give the guy, an ego here. It's a high-rise tower, so it's not insignificant, said Multnomah County Sheriff's Office spokesman Steve Alexander. Breaking out of the maximum security jail and scaling down the building would be a considerable feat, Alexander said. It is a high-rise tower, so that's interesting. Editors, get on this one. This actually does simply repeat the same quote. Again, it's a high-rise tower, so it's not insignificant. I want you to know this, ladies and gentlemen. It is a high-rise tower, not insignificant. All right. Well, no successful escape from a cell in the downtown jail as far as Alexander knows. The only reported escape was an inmate who was working as a jail receptionist. That's not the maximum security part, I'm sure. Who got out of the building through the reception area, amazingly enough, Alexander said. There's one other inmate who was working as a jail tunnel digger, just about made it out, but it didn't really work. Those are probably, bad jobs to give to the inmates. Okay, let's go over to Pocket here. I don't know whether, has Greg got I'm looking for an email. Does he got a meeting or maybe just internet problems? Some crazy storms last night in the D.C. area. If you're listening in Washington, D.C., or perhaps on We Act Radio, 1480 AM on your dial, or you're just listening right here and happen to be in the Washington, D.C. area. Apparently you got poured on, and hail and wind and lightning and power outages, so maybe that's what's happening up in Connecticut. Though usually I get some kind of note off of the emergency reserve somewhere along the line that says, I can't make it today. Maybe it was our basketball lateness that convinced him we weren't going to do a show. Or maybe we're not even on the air. I don't even really know. We've got no signal of any kind, actually, from anybody. Now that I look at it, what's up with Skype? Maybe that's it. I'm clicking on Skype, and Skype isn't coming up. That's what the problem is. Let's try and force quit the Skype and restart that. That must be what it is. All right, let's see. Force quit. Yeah, Skype not responding this whole time. No wonder. Okay. We'll ignore it for now and report it later, and try one more time. There we go. Here's the email. I call no answer from Greg. All right, let me at least respond to him. Okay, there we are. Okay. And here he is. Wow. See, monitoring the show. Good morning, Greg. Sorry about that. I began to notice
good morning.
you were missing.
How are you?
And I'm okay. Skype's
I've been
sick.
here. I keep waving my hands in front of the computer screen
Yeah,
like
I
you're
have
not seeing
no,
me. I don't get it.
Well, without the Skype. And even with the Skype, really. We can't see that. Okay, well, I'm sorry about that, but...
That's okay. That's fine. I just called in to see if you needed to get some coffee because I know you got back,
right?
kinda...
No, today I made it first.
Okay, good.
And I had to drag some with me on the chat. I'm improvising. By the time I have the routine down, basketball camp will be over. We'll be on to the next one.
Yeah, we're cool.
Okay.
So let me give you a quick rundown of what's going on. Okay, we're going to start. I had a rather long pundit roundup this morning, just because there's so much material and so little time.
And many pundits.
Yeah, but it's still an incredible amount going over the Melania plagiarism thing for a variety of reasons.
Really? I wrote them all.
One of the main reasons is that they keep denying that it's plagiarism, so therefore they're making this into like a day 10 story instead of a day 3 story.
Yes.
And, it's fascinating because there really are some major reasons why this matters. Apparently the story out there that the New York Times got is that they had hired, through Jared Kushner, the son-in-law, to Ivanka, they had hired 2 Republican professional writers to write her speech, which they did, gave it to her a month ago, never heard back. She threw it out, ripped it up, got a bunch of friends, and wrote it herself.
Wow.
So the reason that they're not firing anybody over it is they can't fire her. In any case, she gets embarrassed because it really is plagiarism. They keep doubling down and say it's not. It's a reflection of the campaign that they never checked what was going on. Trump is furious.
Mm-hmm.
Melania is embarrassed.
Huh.
And there it is. And so there's a whole lot of stuff
Weird.
to talk about in terms of the Republican National Convention, the lack of energy in the room, the fact that even in prime time a lot of the seats are empty, a lot of the delegates are still mad, it's still a very divided party. Day 1 was all about fascism and authoritarianism. Day 2 was supposed to be about jobs, and instead Hillary Clinton was the star because all they did was talk about her. But they're not talking about any of that. They keep talking about the plagiarism, and so when Donald Trump Jr. Comes up and actually repeats a few lines that were written by a fellow named Franklin Buckley, which is what happened yesterday, it just keeps the story alive. And, of course, it would be easy to say, listen, Buckley advised Trump Jr. on the speech, and so naturally it was his own words because it really was his own words, and that's not really plagiarism. But Trump Jr. says, no, they were all my own words, and so he makes it a story even when it's not a story. And that, in a nutshell, is the entire campaign.
That's weird.
For lack
it's
of
so
one.
easily handleable if you just
Hired a professional.
Or
professional weasel, Ari
doing it
Fleischer,
right.
was reviewing this and said, what they need is more professional weasels.
Yeah.
And so I don't understand why they don't hire them.
I don't know. And even if they don't, I mean, the thing seems pretty obvious to me, right? If the press is saying you got to fire Melania's speechwriter, right? And okay, you don't have one.
Hire somebody real quick and then fire them.
Yeah, or just go. I did. I fired him. You're right. You're absolutely right. And we took care of it.
Here's
Today.
some money. Just
who is he?
A non-disclosure.
You could
Don't
hire
even talk
somebody
about
to
it.
fire him. You could fire a speechwriter just for the hell of it because their contract is over anyway. You could just say you fired a guy and his name is John.
Fire David Frum. He doesn't work for them,
Yeah,
but everybody
right.
knows he's a speechwriter. Just go ahead and fire somebody.
It's just do it. Just or say you fired somebody, and that's it. That's it. I don't know why. And Donald Jr.'s thing. I mean, duh. It's the easiest answer in the world. It's not plagiarism. The guy who wrote the speech wrote that article, and I loved that line, and we used it.
Yeah,
I mean,
no big deal.
stupid line. I mean, that's one problem. Now you're trapped.
Even that is
that's
tricky, I have to say. You know, it's funny because when I put the pundit roundups up, I tweet sometimes. I don't know if you've noticed. And sometimes I will take a tweet that I've written because I think it's pertinent, and I'll stick it in the pundit roundup.
Yes.
And I've seen people complain. And they say, you know, it seems like self-promoting. It seems a little tacky for you to put your own stuff here. And my answer was, I could just rewrite it, but then it feels like I'm plagiarizing my own stuff and making it sound like it's fresh when it's not. And I'm just uncomfortable doing that, so I don't. Yeah,
I've done similar thing, or you know, I've read tweets that I sent the night before or that morning on the air. I said, "This is I wanted to say this on the air. I just couldn't wait, so I want to do it again."
How clever! Well, I was clever yesterday. I don't really feel clever today. Oh, you were cheating about being clever, you know. But so even taking your own material and redoing it is a little weird.
Still, he could have.
But it's still within the bounds of acceptability. It's just weird.
It would have been fine.
Know? But claiming it's your own words when everybody knows that here's the proof that it's not your own words is insane.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of, I mean, I guess between ego and the inability of, I think, certainly all the Trump men to distinguish between that which they own and that which they control and that which they can force other people to give up. All property is pretty much the same to them. They just think it's all mine. It is.
Yeah, including when it comes to people. So the reason the Melania one is more important is because she's more important and central to the whole Trump story.
I guess.
You know, the kids are just rented. But, you know, in terms of who she is and the fact that she is the one that's supposed to speak out and verify that, yes, he's a normal person. And so that's always the role of the First Lady during conventions. And during campaigns. And so it's a very traditionalist role, but nonetheless that's there. At the same time, you basically have let me read Brian Beutler's piece here.
Okay.
Short. Whether Melania knew she was reading plagiarized text or not, and I think it's quite likely she did not. She probably didn't even realize she had stolen it if she's the true writer because she's not professional. It's just devastating to see a campaign premised on the imagined notion of Obama incompetence get caught stealing from Obama's own operation. Mm-hmm. But the power of the images is actually much deeper. They don't just negate something central to Trump's appeal. They amplify one, or more than one, of the main knocks on Trump himself. He's sloppy, erratic in so many ways, the opposite of the virtues he claims to embody. And let's not gloss over it. This is a depiction of a campaign that nurtures white grievance and resentment, which is what, of course, the whole Republican convention is, trying to profit off the work of a black woman from an African-American family that Trump and his supporters regularly belittle. The fact that the plagiarized text in question was about the value of hard work just makes matters worse. A mortifying, calamitous, self-immolating moment. Pretty good.
Yes, I would say so.
David Frum, in fact, who they didn't fire and blame, they should have hired him just to fire him. 10 reasons why Melania Trump's speech will have a lasting impact. And there's one easy-to-understand incident that encapsulates in one grim joke all the convention's cavalcade of derp. That's why he thought that, among other reasons, this was so important, because, in fact, it really does summarize everything. But here's some quick summaries of some of his points. It was the first and best opportunity to humanize Donald Trump. It was not only wasted, but the project of humanizing Trump has become a farce that will haunt the later attempts by Trump's children to undo Monday night's debacle. Number 2, the speech has unleashed a cycle of internal finger-pointing and blame-shifting that will consume Trump's already dysfunctional campaign. People are blaming, people are blaming Manafort. People are blaming Melania, but they can't. Maybe Trump had a hand in it. You can't blame him. So now you have family members mad at other family members. And from right, suppose now that Donald Trump's children by his previous marriage succeed where Melania so humiliatingly failed. What does that unleash in Trump's delicately blended family? Number 3, since Sunday, every journalist at this convention has been collecting examples of the Trump campaign's failures and incompetence. The quarrel with Governor Kasich, the absent senators and governors, the no-show donors, convention's financial embarrassments, floor fights over rules, lack of a proper schedule. I would add in the empty seats in prime time, and the defective apps and other technology. Suddenly there's one easy-to-understand incident, and that's this derp thing. So to this point, the Clinton campaign has been unsure how to attack Donald. There's been notable hesitation, uncertainty, even mutually refuting contradictions in its early attacks. How can Trump be both a cynical con man and a dangerous extremist hate monger? Now at last the script writes itself. Trump is a doofus. The guy who went broke running a casino can't even find somebody to write ordinarily competent speech for his wife's big self-introduction. Trump himself has just vividly demonstrated that his campaign has zero skill at crisis management. Number 6, the incident throws a harpoon into the heart of the Trump campaign's racial politics. Non-white people are ripping off hardworking white Americans who play by the rules. Could there be a sharper reversal of that racialized complaint that Melania Trump, in her designer dress, steals Michelle Obama's heartfelt words? That's pretty good. Number 7, everybody will now want to know more about Melania Trump. And as the outstanding profile by Julia Ioffe in GQ makes clear, it's a story full of uncomfortable secrets. They won't stay secret long. Here's one. She claims to be a graduate of architecture school back in Slovenia. Actually, she's a dropout.
Yeah.
New York Times covered that in passing. So basically, you've created a persona on reality TV that, by the way, isn't real. Can you imagine that? Reality TV not being real?
That is ridiculous. How could that be true?
Number 8, one role of a presidential candidate's spouse is to function as the most sought-after surrogate, especially at fundraising events. A capable spouse effectively doubles the candidate's own campaign hours, more than doubles them, because she or he can relieve the candidate of speaking to party loyalists, whose votes are not in question, to free time for reaching swing voters. Melania Trump has just been removed. Number 9, plagiarism draws attention to the content of the passages plagiarized. In 2008, Michelle Obama summed up the values she learned from her parents. Plagiarized speech pretty strongly confirms Trumps do not much care about hard work either.
Pretty much.
And number 10 and last, the mood of Republicans at this convention was already embattled, defensive, and pessimistic. Conventions are, among other things, important fundraising opportunities. And as Ken Vogel reports in Politico, the state of Trump's fundraising remains calamitous. Even Trump's own named finance directors are not giving money. That mood of pessimism must be even grayer the day after the speech than the day before. So that's 10 reasons why it's awful and why people are still talking about it. Okay, and then there's another point that I made, and I see Alex Shepard made it too. Finally, there's the press' obvious unease about confronting Melania Trump too forcefully. Trump is a non-politician with little public speaking experience, but more than that, she's a potential first lady, and American first ladies occupy an unusual role in American political life.
Yes.
Their positions are simultaneously political and apolitical. And per journalistic norms, they tend not to deserve the scrutiny their partners receive as a matter of course. So the speech itself, which was really pretty bland to begin with, is itself a testament to First Lady's ambiguous position. That Trump plagiarized her speech from the second most scrutinized First Lady in presidential history is yet another irony of this scandal, and it is a scandal. The most scrutinized First Lady in history, her husband's opponent, Hillary Clinton. So there's a whole lot wrapped in there. But, the fact of the matter is, you expose a incompetent and basically completely false image of the candidate to the ruthless exposure of the bright lights, and they wilt. Yeah. It's just phenomenal. And so what do? They do Pee Wee Herman stuff. I meant to do that. It wasn't a mistake. We didn't, do this. Sure, heads will roll some other time, but not the people who are responsible, because the people who are responsible are Donald and Melania, so we can't fire them. And of course, they're just getting pilloried. This is a funny one from Molly Knight, Twitter. Now I understand why there were no personal anecdotes about Trump and Melania's speech. Michelle doesn't know him.
That could be it.
But that's really the summary of what's going on here.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're crazy.
And yet, so Pandeb writes, lost in the plagiarism stuff, as Trump said last night, that is Monday night, in the midst of the convention, he might instruct his attorney general to investigate Black Lives Matter. And the whole fear and authoritarianism of the Rudy Giuliani night gets a little bit glossed over because, as it turns out, the ratings say not as many people, it's close, but not as many people were watching the first night here as in 2012. It didn't get huge ratings, Thursday night might. But the rest of the campaign, actually, everybody reporting from the hall, and I'm not there, but the people who are saying it's low energy, it's empty seats at prime time, it's things that you just don't normally see at a convention. These are supposed to be the fired up people that go take it to the communities, and that ain't happening.
No, it's not.
Meanwhile, we have forecast models. Everybody understands that the polls are going to tighten and are tightening. Our favorite to play with Reuters poll is now down to 7 from 13. So you can say, oh my gosh, our lead's been cut in half. Actually, it's a pretty big lead in that poll. But there are signs that it's tightening. We've been talking for a couple of weeks now about how they also asked this interesting question. If you don't want to vote for either of the candidates, who do you lean? And Clinton had been the more popular candidate up until this week. This week it's a slight edge to Trump. And that all, suggests that the campaign and the Republican National Convention is having its traditional role of consolidating Republicans. Most of the independents and undecideds are, in fact, Republican leaning. You can see that in the NBC SurveyMonkey poll. And you can see that in other polls as well. So that's not totally surprising. And it wouldn't be totally surprising if Trump actually by Friday or Saturday, if we poll Saturday, Sunday and get some polling data then, that he actually takes a small lead. Clinton's lead right now is only about 2 or 3 points. And yet, if you look at the forecasts, New York Times has 76% chance of Clinton winning, and they do a great job of explaining why theirs are different than others. Right now, 538 gives Clinton a 62% chance of winning, and there are other forecasts that are a little higher. Some of them are just saying lean one way or the other, and they're not putting odds on it, which is probably smart. But when you actually look at the data in terms of where these numbers come from, the big difference is in how the New York Times looks at states like Pennsylvania and Nevada and New Hampshire and Iowa, and puts all of those in the Democratic column, whereas 538 considers them more toss-up, even though Clinton's leading in all of them.
Oh.
Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia are the true toss-ups, with Georgia being on the Republican side.
Really? Still? Okay.
62% chance of being Republican, whereas North Carolina, 56% chance going to Democrats, Florida, 61%. And the Florida key here, they have a really nice interactive toward the bottom of this New York Times write-up, that if you click on a state, it gives you an idea of how their paths to victory are. So in other words, let's say Clinton wins Florida. If Clinton wins Florida, she has 945 different combinations of how she could get to 270, and Trump would have only 72.
Okay.
If she wins Pennsylvania, Trump would only have 8 ways to get there, assuming Florida goes to Clinton.
Okay.
So Florida is the key.
Okay. If
Florida is it goes to Clinton, and then she wins Pennsylvania, it's basically over.
Mm-hmm.
If another way you could make it over is if you give Florida to the Democrats, and she also wins Ohio.
Okay.
Then no matter what else happens in the swing states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Arizona, Iowa, Nevada, New Hampshire, doesn't matter.
Okay, well, let's just go automatically win that then.
So she has a bunch of different paths to get there. It's just interesting in terms of the setup. The word on polling basically is this: for the next 10 days, don't pay any attention to it, or if you do pay attention, understand it's going to be variable and bouncy based on discussions about the conventions. It will be interesting to see if Trump doesn't take a lead. That would be awful for him. Mm-hmm. But if he does take a small lead, it wouldn't be surprising. That's typically what you see, and then Clinton should reclaim it next week when the Democrats are meeting. So
I don't
that's what
understand
to
why Republicans don't insist on having their convention second.
Well, it's the tradition, right?
Yeah, but
incumbent party goes second.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that was the tradition.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't paid attention to it really, except then noticing, well, okay, the last couple of times it's been, and I guess when it's an open, I guess whoever's incumbent at that point.
But they're still the incumbent party. It's not the incumbent person, but it's the incumbent party.
I just don't remember. Oh, yes, now I do. Now that I'm thinking about it, in 2008, I now recall being at the Denver convention and hearing the Sarah Palin announcement, which would have been pre-convention. Okay. Yeah, right. All right. I didn't even realize that was going on. I was like, but you'd think Although, really, honestly, I guess now my question is, why don't they just say, I don't care, we're just not going to do it until you go. You go first, I insist.
Well, this year, the Republicans can break all the rules and do whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. They do a second convention. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, Alexander Petri writing in the Washington Post, another day of the GOP convention, another night of terror.
Mm-hmm.
Last night was Chris Christie. And basically they're trying to make the case that Clinton should be in jail. We talked about this. We did that Jeet here series of tweets about punishing Clintons. Did we do that?
Probably. I don't know. I'm trying to specifically remember.
It's perhaps worth, because it's short, doing again.
Okay.
And this comes from Storify. Let me just give you the little URL here so you can play along.
Okay.
On a more serious note, has anybody noticed how pervasive rhetoric about punishing Hillary Clinton now is? And this was back on July 16th, so it was well before yesterday's 3 hours of she should be in jail. Mm-hmm. And Nick Compassori, who's at the convention, has mentioned this morning, it's, let's just say it, there's way too much bitch stuff going on here.
Oh, yeah.
Buttons,
that was very popular
shirts, open comments. It's really offensive.
Mm-hmm. And it's gone beyond that. In order to up the signal, they've found new words.
Yes, they have, most of which we cannot repeat on the air. Right. So on a more serious note, has anybody noticed how pervasive rhetoric about punishing Hillary Clinton now is? Trump has called on Clinton to be jailed, as have other Republicans, and of course that all last night. Chris Christie, who should be jailed himself, is trying to make that case. And by the way, that's why it's not working. So what's become a standard GOP position is that Hillary Clinton not only needs to be defeated politically, she needs to be punished. Where did this punitive urge come from? Partially, it's a standard conservative belief in retribution, but amped up and politicized. There's an argument, Joe Klein once made it, that Watergate started a cycle of both parties criminalizing political differances, as if there wasn't a real reason for that. I mean, that was authoritarianism on steroids right there.
And entering. Okay.
During the Iran-Contra aftermath, it was the right who complained loudest about criminalizing political differences.
Yes.
But I resist both sides do it because GOP rhetoric seems asymmetrically extreme. It's not just GOP extremism. Note the difference of treatment of Obama and Clinton. Obama is an alien. Clinton is criminal. It's hard to avoid conclusion that there's gender dimension here. Clinton is a bad woman, someone who has violated natural order. Trump's comments about how women should be punished for abortion was a classic gaffe, not a lie, but a revelation of hidden feeling. So false equivalence here. Somebody referred to Alan Grayson and some of his outrageous comments, but Grayson isn't the same as Trump, who's a presidential nominee. What's interesting is that the disjunction between Clinton, a banal mainstream politician, and the extreme emotions she generates politically, Clinton is mainstream Dem in the same spectrum as John Kerry or Biden, but she generates desire to punish that they don't. So he's saying, well, a lot of it has to be she's a woman who's not in her place. And by the way, Lucifer, you mentioned Lucifer. Did you catch where that came from?
Yeah.
Saul Alinsky. You mentioned Saul Alinsky. Did you catch where that came from?
No.
Same place.
Oh.
Same place.
Well.
Ben Carson.
Okay,
Ben Carson gave a very short speech yesterday and said, think about it. He always says that, right? Closes his eyes, pretends to be asleep, and says, think about this.
Okay.
You know,
it's a visualization exercise.
Dog spelled God backwards. You know, it's basically the same level of sophistication. But he says, think about this. Hillary Clinton.
Dust. Yeah.
Hillary Clinton did her college thesis on Saul Alinsky.
Did she?
Saul Alinsky, in his book Rules for Radicals, in the preface, said something about Lucifer and his place in being a rebel. This therefore means that Lucifer and Clinton are connected via Saul Alinsky.
Like LinkedIn.
Think about that.
Demons. Wow. Ben.
Right. So that was basically the speech.
Well, okay. I mean, it's a thing.
The stage. But that's where Saul Alinsky came from. They did not talk about the fart in. I thought maybe that's where it came from, but no. They talked about how Saul Alinsky proves that Clinton and Lucifer are related.
Yes.
Perhaps
second cousins. Was Clinton... Well, first of all, did she do that? college thesis? I don't know. That I'm not sure of.
Do I care?
I don't know.
Did I ever read the preface to Saul Alinsky's book? Maybe 40 years ago. I don't know.
Maybe. I guess the other question is, was Hillary still conservative at the time?
It doesn't matter. The point is that she was the star of the convention because that's all they could talk about. Nobody wanted to talk about Trump. Nobody wanted to talk about it was supposed to be jobs night yesterday at the convention. Nobody wanted to talk about that. They don't have any ideas about it.
That's crazy for them.
They didn't want to talk about anything except Hillary Clinton and how she should be in jail.
Yeah, well, I don't either. So I was wondering just because I
didn't watch the whole thing. I couldn't. You turn it on for 5 minutes and then you have to go barf. And then take a shower, and then you go watch again for a couple of minutes. But it was pretty amazing.
Trying to make some sense of it. And I know that only conservatives seem to care about who reads Saul Alinsky, and I was just wondering. I remember, they sometimes, she is sometimes attacked for saying, she was brought up in a conservative home, was a Goldwater girl. So how much later was she writing this thesis? She was probably writing a Saul Alinsky thesis from their perspective, the way they write Saul Alinsky theses. No one on the liberal side does. It's conservatives wringing their hands about how horrible Saul Alinsky is. So she was writing one of their theses, and here he is turning it into feces. So many years later.
Right.
Well.
From theses to feces. Yes. That's really a summation of the entire Republican Party, really.
Right. They're going to nail their feces to the church door.
Exactly.
All right.
Let's not count how many there are. So the summary here is from John Chait. The Republicans' economy night turns out to be another lock-up Hillary night. Mm-hmm. The promised theme of day 2 of the Republican National Convention was the economy, along with this promise to approve Republican judges. The economy is a major part of the reason Republican leaders have decided to endorse their nominee. McConnell and Ryan delivered speeches pointing out the nominee would sign their bills. Oh, did you know they were at the convention? They get booed when they're there, but they're there. Which is enough enticement for them to accept the long-term brand damage Trump inflicts upon the party, not to mention the possibility he might win and destroy the rule of law.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Mike Mukasey, the former Bush administration attorney general, delivered a blistering denunciation of Hillary Clinton's email server security practices by way of tacitly endorsing Trump. And then 5 months ago, Mukasey contributed to National Review's widely discussed against Trump issue when he wrote that Trump says he would order the military to kill the families of terrorists. That would be a direct violation of the most basic laws of armed conflict, and noted he summons applause with tantrums and homicidal fantasies, but now he's a member of the Republicans against Trump who were really for Trump.
Oh, well, he's a principal.
Because the promised human rights violations and homicidal fantasies may be less than ideal, but hey, that email server.
Right, that's the worst.
So it is fair to conclude, he writes, that Clinton's handling of the emails was extremely careless, and for this episode and others to raise doubts about her judgment, but for Republicans against Trump for Trump to persuade themselves to vote the party line, the more potent sins than extreme carelessness or mild corruption, which could also be persuasively alleged against the Clintons, are required. Many Republicans have framed their case against Clinton as a defense of the rule of law. So Chris Christie had a mock trial yesterday while delegates chanted, "Lock her up." That's what happened last night.
It happens a lot at trials.
After a night devoted in large part to Benghazi, or as I like to call it, death, because, if you watch Monday night, like everybody died. It's amazing that anybody's left at the convention to actually be delegates. After a night devoted in large part to Benghazi, several speeches brought up Benghazi yet again. Ben Carson drew out Clinton's youthful connection to the hated Saul Alinsky, and then via Alinsky connected Clinton to Lucifer, really. Carson was only taking literally the instructions, demonize the opponent, other speakers had taken figuratively. It's worth contemplating the mental gymnastics required to believe Clinton threatens the rule of law, but Trump doesn't. One has to believe Clintonian conspiracy rule is so vast, it has ensnared even Republican public servants, and that this outweighs such glaring danger signs as Trump's lavish praise for dictators because they crush opponents, his insistence a Mexican judge can't sit on his fraud case, his refusal to release his tax information, his kleptocrat-style intermingling of business interests with governing, his insistence that any election he loses is rigged, his claim just the other day that he can violate the Constitution's prohibition against a religious test because it doesn't necessarily give us the right to commit suicide as a country, and on and on. He's exposed the rule of law as a party rhetorical tick that means nothing more or less than Republicans must rule.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what people are seeing. Sure, I get that Republicans and a lot of the base will be okay with this. That's not really the point. It's never been the point. The point is everybody else. So we have to see how that goes. All right. And then finally, last piece here. In the pundit roundup today, I have a little policy thing here, but it's interesting from a political point of view as well. Dan Diamond, who's a terrific health reporter, who's over at Politico Pulse, interviews a policy wonk, a Republican policy wonk named Lanhee Chan, Lanheechan, Lanhee Chan. He was Romney's chief advisor on policy and also did some work for Rubio. And he interviews him about how could you come to terms with Donald Trump?
Yes.
And the thinking and the rationalization behind coming to terms was fascinating, and you could see how other people sort of work their way there. Here's from it's a podcast, but here's from the story that Dan Diamond wrote up. Chen also addressed perceptions of a so-called wonk gap between Democrats and Republicans, with liberal thinkers like Krugman bemoaning that they have relatively few conservative counterparts with whom to seriously debate policy. While he disputed that argument, Chan acknowledged that the Obama administration's 2 terms have fostered liberal policy ideas while the conservative movement has stagnated. On the left, he said, you have people constantly going in and out of government, feeding a virtuous cycle of people who go into government, get experience, and come out thinking more thoughtfully about these issues. Republicans haven't been in power in 8 years, so we haven't had that churn. So basically, he admits there's more Democratic policy wonks than there are Republicans because policy isn't the thing in the Republican Party.
That's true.
And despite all this concern about Trump, here's where the politics comes in. Chen still thinks the policies put forward by Hillary Clinton would be worse for the nation. They both cause me great concern, Chen admitted, but Trump's more of a blank slate, so it's easier to be worried about what Clinton would do, because the presumptive Democratic nominee has been much more specific. And then Diamond added, Clinton's released 205 pages of policy proposals. Trump's website lists 7 policy positions.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between the two. Basically, what he's saying is Trump's a blank slate, I can influence him. And how many times in authoritarian history have you heard we can control him, we can influence him, it's okay. He's a blank slate, he'll have to listen to us. And you know where that ends. That's what's so weird about this.
Yes.
But you could see how you could put yourself on that path.
I can see it.
Scary and wrong.
A lot of historical precedent for that.
But a path nonetheless, and that's why I thought it was so fascinating.
Yes.
So that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I got today.
Okay. I'll take it.
All right. You got it. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Now, tomorrow's the last show I'm going to do for a while.
Oh, okay. Why is that? You going
I'm
on
mad
vacation?
At you. No, actually, that's not why. I'm going on vacation,
Awesome.
so I have a meeting on Friday, as I often do on Fridays.
I know.
But then all of next week, I'm going to be on vacation, and actually, the Pundit Roundup on Daily Kos, the regulars are going to fill in for me. Tim Lang and Georgia and Mark Sumner, they're all going to take their turns, so I'm going to have a week off of doing that, too.
Very good. Very nice. I hope you enjoyed that. Maybe I can entice one of them to come on.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I'm going to have to gear up for this thing, too.
I thought I'd give you a couple of days in advance. Oh, by the way, I'm not here today.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering. I was sitting around for a while saying,
not my fault. I tried. I called several times.
Yeah.
Actually, it's interesting. It's right there on Skype. You know, when you call, you say, call no answer, call no answer, call no answer. It's all here.
It has to be working.
Yeah, that's good.
Know.
How did you like this call? Skype will ask us afterwards. I don't know.
Well, the last one, I love that one.
But anyway, thanks. And Joan, hopefully, will be on a little bit later. I still call her McJoan. I can't help it. I'm that old.
Yes.
And thanks so much for the Netroots Radio folks for making it happen. I have to say to Justice, you know, that little music intro that happens before you come on and we hear the typewriter dings.
Yeah.
I love it. I don't know what it is, whether it's a didgeridoo or a chauffeur or whatever the music is. It's really quite good.
It's
and
nice.
I enjoy listening to it in the morning.
It is. It's a thing called the electronic music MIDI. Medieval Pundits, it's called. Is the name of the piece.
Perfect.
A nice royalty-free piece that we have, thank God, because we don't want to be like Republican presidential candidates and
rip off Queen's music, right? Normally we would play "We Are the Champions," but we don't have permission,
and we're not.
Alrighty, take care.
Okay, thanks very much, Greg. And all right, well, we'll take what we can get from you before you go off on vacation. I've got a vacation of sorts coming up in a couple of weeks. I have to decide how I'm going to handle that one, and we may. What we'll do is we'll plagiarize Melania Trump's collected works, I guess, for a few days. Not long, although it may last the week. I have to check the schedule to see what the hell's going on. I'll have to ask my wife. Where are we going? What are we doing? We're going to Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls. We're going, and we're bringing the kids. And we've decided that some of these summer vacation things, we can't really get away far, far away. We send our kids far, far away. They get to go. But we don't. But we thought maybe we would start doing a little bit of long weekend travels in the area. And being East Coasters, we have the opportunity to take the kids to the cities of the East. And even if there's nothing particularly exciting there, it'd be the sort of city where you might say, well, there's things to do there, certainly, and things for which the city is well known, etc. But you wouldn't say, you wouldn't find a lot of East Coast adults saying, hey, guess what? Taking a vacation to, Pittsburgh, Charlotte, secondary cities when you're comparing them to, Washington, D.C., I suppose. New York City, certainly. New York City. Just these are places that have lots to offer, and you don't get there very often. You might go there on business or something like that. But it occurred to me, that would be really interesting just for the kids. They just want something mild, easy to do, not hard to reach, that maybe has an interesting museum or two, some kind of fun activity that's unique to the area. Even just going out for ice cream in a different city at a different place would be a nice change of pace and get you out of the summer doldrums. So we're hitting Pittsburgh on the way up. We're going to drive to Niagara Falls. We're coming back. We're going to stop and do some, if everything's right, stargazing. There's a park in middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, that if I can remember the name, it's like Cherry Creek State Park or something. One of the only, I think, dark skies park in is it even in the United States, the eastern United States? I don't know. But it's out there in middle of Pennsylvania, and maybe I have the name wrong because I'm not finding it. Anyway, that sort of stuff, fun stuff. But it'll be where are we? Mid-August. So we got a couple of weeks to try and figure that one out. Speaking of Greg's wrap-up here. Let's see. Arliss has a comment. The "we can mold him," etc. ends in 45,000 people, including teachers, being arrested in Turkey this week by the moldable president of Turkey. How does he pronounce that name, by the way? It's Erdogan. I haven't been listening to enough live reporting about things. I see everything on Twitter. Nobody ever pronounces anything there. I have to go and find out. If there's a couple people I know who are in Turkey, not Americans, but Turkish, but who were back there visiting with family, and I got to find a way of checking up on them, and I don't have any way of doing it directly. So hopefully all is well there, and they'll return here where they're living and working normally, unharmed, but I'm beginning to worry about that. I was thinking about, there was a line in, because everything is movies for me, even though I hardly ever see any new movies. I'm thinking of, what was it? Like, you ever see the movie, was it Lady Jane? It's Jane Grey. The end of, anyway, the life of Jane Grey. Briefly and disputedly Queen of England, back in the 1500s, and hey, what a scene! But yeah, there's a line in the film. I mean, I don't know whether it's historically based or not, but the idea was to marry her to one of the Dudley family, and that the man to whom she was married would be controlled. She would be controlled by him. That being the dynamic between the genders then, and that he himself would be controllable by the family, who were dukes of one or another of the various prominent regions of England. Okay, Erdogan, huh? That's the pronunciation, Arliss? Erdogan. Let me take a look at that side by side with the spelling. Erdogan, huh? No G in that song. All right, well, anyway, so much to catch up with. Okay, let's see. Here's a suggestion. Good. Albert Titus, tons to do in Buffalo on your way to Niagara Falls. Happy to provide suggestions or answer questions. Yes, please do. Do you have any questions I could ask you? Or you could go right to providing suggestions. Buffalo is a possibility. I don't know how we can fit it into our drive schedule. We're going to stop in Pittsburgh, and then I guess if the weather isn't looking good for stargazing in the park, we could take a different route home. But Buffalo is also the kind of place that we would say, yeah, let's go. Let's check that out. Let's do all the things that there are to do. Buffalo, we spend a lot of time in Charlottesville, Virginia, as it is, but this sort of thing, Charlotte, North Carolina. We could go to Asheville. We could go to we could go to Memphis. Just places that are reachable, that are decent, destinations and such. But we only need a couple of days, and you don't have to do anything really outrageous to entertain kids. Kids are popular. A lot of people have them, so they probably have a lot of ideas about what they could do with them in various cities, or how to get rid of them by sending them to other cities. And if you tell us what those things are, we would agree to accompany them. And they'll now agree to accompany us because of the miracle of Pokemon Go. Thank God they're willing to leave the house for the first time in ages, because there's fake animals out there that you can only see on your phone. But whatever. They still have to go outside to do it, so that's pretty good. All right. Let me take a quick look through Pocket and see if there are any fun things that need to be brought up, and maybe things that we could discuss with Joan when she gets here. Also would probably be a good idea to have the front page of Daily Kos open so that we can see what the hell's going on the written side and follow along and see what as Joan has her eye on in all of this. And, okay. Well, I can try and prepare, or I can try and cram something in. Why don't we try and do that first? All right. A couple of things that I put aside. Let's take a look. Here's what I'll do. Over to the New York Times, a lot of discussion of the piece entitled How Donald Trump Picked His Running Mate. Of course, there's been a lot of speculation about that, and we've now moved on to speculating about who plagiarized from whom and why. But the important bit of the New York Times piece has been excerpted and screenshotted and passed around. This is the part I wanted to get to, even if I never get around to the entire article of how Donald Trump picked his running mate. The important stuff is here. One day this past May, it is said, Donald Trump's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., who spoke last night, reached out to a senior advisor to Governor John Kasich of Ohio, who'd left the presidential race just a few weeks before. As a candidate, Kasich declared in March that Trump was, quote, really not prepared to be president of the United States, unquote, and he was right. And the following month, he took the highly unusual step of coordinating with his rival, Senator Ted Cruz, in an effort to deny Trump the nomination. Good effort, though. Really worked well. But according to the Kasich advisor, who spoke only under the condition that he not be named so that he could work for Donald Trump, probably, Donald Jr. wanted to make him an offer nonetheless. That is, I guess, to Kasich. Did Kasich have any interest in being the most powerful vice president in history? How so? When Kasich's advisor asked, how would this be the case? Donald Jr. explained that his father's vice president would be in charge of domestic and foreign policy. Then what? I'm sure how this he must have the same thought. Then what, the advisor asked, would Trump be in charge of? Making America great again, was the casual reply. That's literally the mind of Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr. What's your job as president? I'm going to make America great again. What does that even entail? Making and also America, and great as well. Just also, I wanted you to know that. So he's going to run around and make America great, and all the little details, like what should the laws be, and how should we use them, and where should the army bomb stuff, and what about, can we kill this guy? Which guy? This guy who took my parking space once. Can we kill him? That's all going to be up to Donald Trump. An interesting dynamic. I mean, you got to get there the same way you get there by being president. But, I mean, basically what he's asking is, it's not that I want you to elect me president, per se. What I want is a constitutionally valid method of having the American people hand over to me, Donald J. Trump, the right to single-handedly select the President of the United States, the Chief Executive of the United States. I don't really want it to be me. I want to be able to select the person who it will be, and just to be sure, I will hold the puppet strings here, and if by some chance this loser idiot that I trusted but turns out to be a jerk and made him vice president, I can overrule him because the Constitution says so. This is a very interesting approach to the presidency, and I don't know. I mean, I guess there's nothing facially that invalidates it, right? If you get the voters to say, I mean, to approve of your model, essentially. If you say ahead of time, I'm not going to do any of this stuff, I'm going to outsource it to somebody else, but with the right to fire the guy if I don't like it, then fine. If everybody approves of that plan and hands that over to him, it's an odd approach to things, but I guess there's nothing facially invalid about it. Parlio noting, and this, this came to mind, this would be the Bush-Cheney sequel, but of course, I mean, yes, I mean, he certainly handed an awful lot over to Cheney, and there's, of course, the theory that Cheney really ran everything, and it's not a bad theory, and there's a lot to argue for it, but yeah, there was still some sense in which you got the idea that Bush relished the idea of being the decider, right, and at least the guy in charge, and he wanted to be president and wanted it to look like he was the guy running everything, but he definitely did depend on a lot of for policy details on Cheney and Cheney's team, but also on his own team. It was clear that he wasn't going to be the mind behind it all, but he was going to have the team to run everything, and he would run everything by Cheney, or if he had no policy preference, he would leave it to Cheney, perhaps. This is sort of a different thing entirely, where it's just Donald Trump just wants to, do the stuff he wants to do, and like he can't even be bothered to govern, because that's for losers and bureaucrats and jerks in bad suits, and all I want is veto power over anything that they do, and the ability to replace them with somebody who'll do what I say to do if I really do have an idea about what I want done here. I don't know. As a matter of fact, I'm now looking at something else of interest over here that just floated by on Twitter from Reuters. An exclusive. You'll never get it anywhere else. Trump could seek a new law to purge government of Obama's people, says Christie, who, of course, has no idea about anything. But it's an interesting idea to explore. I guess here's what's interesting I'm finding between this and a few other things that have been floated by Trump and Trump's surrogates in the last couple of days. Trump is, a gimmitarian at heart, and, of course, no experience governing, no experience in understanding the various checks and balances of our constitutional system, the actual written constitution, and the constitutional norms that we've adopted over the years. No interest in them, no interest in preserving them, no understanding of why they exist or what they are. just wants what he wants and when he wants it. And so, yeah, the idea of purging the government of Obama's people, like that's something that certainly Democrats have entertained in the past or have said that we feel like our hands are tied. But we really would like to be rid of them. I'm thinking of all the, like the Bush Justice Department people who embedded themselves in the supposedly non-political ranks of the DOJ, and who we worried we would have to spend years ferreting out and undoing their work, and basically saying, that's just the way our system works, and it's very difficult to dislodge them by law. He just says, well, I want a different law so that I can dislodge them en masse or without any sort of due process, or all this stupid stuff that differentiates the government from business as I envision it, where I can simply say you're fired, whereas in government people have an actual due process before being dismissed, etc. And it's the sort of thing that resonates with conservatives. They certainly feel a familiarity with saying, yeah, well, it's all this government tenure stuff and between teachers and everywhere else. That's overwhelmingly a conservative ideal, to be able to hire and fire at will. Of course, that all disappears when they're the ones holding the jobs, at which point hiring and firing at will by a Democrat would be the ultimate in corruption. I wonder what does the Reuters story have to say about that one. I'm kind of curious. It might be something that Joan might like discussing as well. All right, let's see. Let's see about this so-called exclusive. Emily Flitter is the writer of this exclusive piece. Trump could seek a new law to purge government of Obama appointees, and I wonder how deep that goes. If he wins the presidency, Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump would seek to purge the federal government of officials appointed by Democratic President Barack Obama and could ask Congress to pass legislation making it easier to fire public workers, Trump ally Chris Christie said on Tuesday. Christie, who actually is governor of New Jersey, that's true, and leads Trump's White House transition team, a little prematurely, but okay, said the campaign was drawing up a list of federal government employees to fire if Trump defeats Democratic rival Hillary Clinton in the November 8th presidential election. As you know from his other career, Donald likes to fire people, Christie told a closed-door meeting with dozens of donors at the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, according to an audio recording obtained by Reuters and two participants in the meeting. Christie was referring to Trump's starring role in the long-running television show The Apprentice. You know all about that, the catchphrase, "You're fired," which isn't a catchphrase, it's 2 words, but okay. The Trump campaign did not respond to requests for comment. Trump's transition advisors fear that Obama may convert these appointees to civil servants who have more job security than officials who have been politically appointed. This would allow officials to keep their jobs in a new, possibly Republican administration, Christie said. It's called burrowing, Christie said, and you know that because the people who kept you on as U.S. attorney told you all about it, and they were the ones actively burrowing the Bush administration people into place. You take them from the political appointee side into the civil service side in order to try to set up roadblocks for your successor, kind of like when all the Clinton people took the W's off the keyboard when George Bush was coming into the White House, which they didn't do. Anyway, Christie was referring to pranks committed during the presidential transition from Bill Clinton to George W. Bush in 2001. During that period, some White House staffers removed the W key on computer keyboards, and I thought that was debunked, but maybe I'm wrong about that, and left derogatory signs and stickers in offices, according to a report by the General Accounting Office, an investigative arm of Congress. I gloss over all of this in a monotone because that's not what burrowing is, and it's really not even close to a comparison to what it actually is and what it actually does. And of course, the very best and most recent example of actual burrowing is the Bush administration doing it to the incoming Obama administration. It has nothing to do with jokes about whether there's W's on your keyboard. It has to do with actual people in charge of actual policies actually being difficult to ferret out and fire from their actual government jobs. You complete dick. One of the things I, a complete dick, have suggested to Donald is that we have to immediately ask the Republican Congress to change the civil service laws, because if they do, it will make it a lot easier to fire those people, Christie said. He said firing civil servants was cumbersome and time-consuming. It's difficult and hard to do. I'm a governor and I know. There was no immediate comment from the American Federation of Government Employees, which is the largest federal employee union in the United States, except for probably duh. Christie told the gathering that changing the leadership in the Environmental Protection Agency, easy enough as a trope, long a target of Republicans concerned about overregulation, would be a top priority should Trump win in November. Trump has previously vowed to eliminate the EPA. So who cares? And roll back some of America's most ambitious environmental policies, actions that he says would revive the U.S. oil and coal industries and bolster national security. Christie added that the Trump team wants to let business people serve in government part-time without having to give up their jobs in the private sector, which would be horrible. Trump frequently says he is better equipped to be president because of his business experience, and we know that's not likely true. Although Christie was repeatedly asked during the meeting, he declined to name any potential cabinet picks. He said Trump was not ready to do that yet. Fair enough, I think. Yeah, that's kind of dumb. So whatever. All right. Something else that I just saw fly by. Reed Wilson reporting that Donald Trump helped New Jersey Republicans pay off $425,000 in legal fees related to Bridgegate. How's that for a story? Well, no wonder he has Chris Christie's undying loyalty, despite the fact that he screwed him over. How many ways to Sunday would you say? Normally we say 6, but this was probably a couple extra. 8 to 12 ways to Sunday, which may not even be possible. Here's the story from NewJersey.com. With Trump's help, New Jersey Republicans pay Bridgegate legal fees. That is complicated, isn't it? Let's see. Here we go. It's all about, of course, Bridgegate, the George Washington Bridge lane closing scandal. Campaign finance reports released Tuesday show the Republican State Committee not only paid its Bridgegate-related bills, but has enough money in the bank to cover its remaining debts. Trump, the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, and I think that's we've moved on to, he's the nominee. Last night they actually took care of that, which, by the way, raises a lot of process questions that some of you may have, and maybe we can at least mention those if we don't dive in deep on it. He had a lot to do with that, hosting a $25,000 a ticket event in May to raise money for the state GOP. Trump held a separate fundraiser for Christie's presidential campaign that same day, bringing in $142,000. That's enough to whittle down Christie's campaign debt, but not pay it off. Got to keep him on a leash, you know. You don't want to completely set the guy free. The donations allowed the state committee to erase $425,000 in legal fees, including a billing adjustment that lowered the amount by $79,550. Did he negotiate that one for him, too? According to campaign finance reports filed with the Federal Election Commission and State Election Law Enforcement Commission. As if there were a real law there. Anyway, the committee in total reported raising about $434,120 for its federal account and $397,322 for its state account. I guess it's not an about number, is it? From April 1st to June 30th, the federal account now has a bank balance of $154,515, in case you're interested, and remaining debts of $43,788, while the state account has $61,286 cash on hand and $22,689 in debts. Our state party is debt-free of all legal bills, anyway, and with a strong financial footing to help support Republican candidates all across New Jersey to win in November, says Executive Director Pete Sheridan. Christie endorsed Trump shortly after ending his own presidential campaign in February. He was on the billionaire businessman's shortlist of potential VP candidates, so he lost out, did you know this, to Indiana Governor Mike Pence. It's an interesting story. That's worth keeping in the back of your mind, I think, in helping to understand the dynamics between the two. Was there something there? There was something along the way that made me think, oh, we ought to talk about some other aspect of this stuff. But now I can't remember what it was. Okay, let's see. What did I put aside here? This didn't help me with anything because I put it aside in Pocket, but all it is a reference to Daily Kos. So now I don't know what it was I had put aside there, but I'm sure it was something awesome, and maybe something Joan will bring up. Or, I don't know, it's also getting a little bit late. I know Skype is now working. Maybe getting a little late to hear from... It's later than we usually hear from Joan. And my guess is... And here's a good excuse for me to skim the first page. My guess is that there was an awful lot of time involved in live blogging the Republican convention. I mean, I see a lot of updates here from Joan, and it's probably like a good day to sleep in. Or she's just busy catching up on other things that had to happen while she but got put aside while she was contributing to the live blogging. All right, well, that makes me sad. I miss her, but okay. We'll survive. We did speak to her last week. We'll speak to her again next week. And very likely we'll get a note later on that says, I totally forgot, but I was racing to do X, Y, and Z. And we understand these things. After all, I've been late every morning this week, and I likely will be again tomorrow and the next day. Oh, and how about this? Better news, a note from Joan that says, on my way. So, okay, we'll take it. I don't want to... I don't want to skip it, that's for sure. But I didn't want to pressure her into coming. Maybe a little bit I did. I don't know. Anyway, oh yes, here's some news. Roger Ailes is finally going to be kicked out from Fox News. It's all over. New York Magazine, I believe, dropped the bomb that actually, I think, did him in publicly yesterday. The Murdochs now say, I think they said, you got till August 1st to resign, and you can take a golden parachute with you, and a huge one at that. $40 million is reportedly what's in the offing, but you got to be out by August 1st. Why? Because sources are telling the Murdoch investigators that Megyn Kelly is the latest to confirm the allegations against Roger Ailes. So that'll probably do it, don't you think? Good morning, Joan. How you doing?
I think that will do it. Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
Okay, a little harried, summer schedule and all. But,
yes,
you too.
A little harried. We're again in vacation week.
Oh dear.
And RNC week combining have been a bit challenging.
That sounds like something we shouldn't have allowed in some way, don't you think?
Yeah, the issue that we can't have any vacation after Labor Day makes it kind of, hard to get all of that time off in.
Yeah, it is. Although, I mean, I don't know, with conventions, I guess I would say you could probably have a vacation like really close after Labor Day, one or two at a time, perhaps. It's maybe worse in the convention time, but okay. On the other hand, for the Republican convention, what do you got to do? You have to list the sins and then laugh at them. That's not terrible work.
Oh, Lord. Except that you have to sit through it.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as the debates. It's more fun than the debates.
That's true. That's good. I'm glad it's a little bit more fun. It is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When Tiffany Trump emerges as the most well-spoken, poised, effective speaker of 2 nights of conventioning, you got a bit of a problem.
I guess so. And I mean, I think, maybe the best thing that probably ever happened to her is that Donald kept her at arm's length from himself, from the rest of the family, and from the money. And she kind of had some grounding maybe in normal life, maybe?
Seems like. Because really, she was very effective last night.
Well, that's good. Congratulations to her.
Had more actual sort of warmth and personal feeling and convincing thoughts on her father than her stepmother did, certainly.
Yeah.
That was one of the weird things about Melania's speech, despite the plagiarism. There were no real insights into Donald Trump as a person.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything personal. There weren't any anecdotes. Yeah.
I mean, that, I don't really know what I expected from her. Well, I mean, if he were a normal person and she were a normal person, I guess I would have expected anecdotes like that. But I don't know. I guess all it did was confirm my suspicions that, she said he's a wealthy guy and he lives in opulence and he's a little bit disgusting, but I'll marry him. Whatever.
Pretty much.
And
pretty much was it, wasn't it?
I got to wear some bikinis. That's okay because I like to stay in shape, so I'll work out a lot, and he'll insist on it anyways. It's symbiotic that way. He's not totally unpleasant to me, but if we stay apart from one another once in a while and I don't act super jealous there's probably a balance she has to strike. I have to do a little bit of jealousy because he likes that. But they're creepy people. Whatever, I don't hold it too much against Melania. What do I care? But they're weirdos.
They're weirdos.
And
they're weirdos.
We're seeing
that.
that.
And Donald Jr.
Yeah,
big weirdo. He's very creepy.
Yeah, so it would seem.
There's just such a strong date rape vibe that you get from the Trump boys.
I guess so. It seems like I keep coming back to that as a topic. Between that and like Roger Ailes.
Yes.
I get the feeling, and I've had some discussion, just total speculation. I don't know any of those people, and I don't think I know anyone like any of them, but you never know. But certainly the people I know who might actually be like that, I just would never in a million years discuss anything approaching their personal life with them. Especially if I thought I would find out something horrible about them. But there really is, I think, a strong vibe working there, and it grows out of that other overarching worldview that I think certainly all the Trump men appear to have, in which they're unable or unwilling to distinguish between that which is theirs and their property and anything else in the world. Whether it's property owned by their foundation, property owned by someone entirely different who lives in a different country under a different system of laws, but they happen to be nearby it, and they will think it's theirs.
Yeah. It takes entitlement to... entitlement is not a strong enough word.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but, for the Trump boys, as far as we know, that extends to, like... living creatures on another continent, let's kill them and take pictures with them.
Just so we can cut their tail off.
Yeah, right. We'll take this little tiny piece, and we can use the rest of this thing. Maybe that's where Trump steaks come from. I have no idea. But it's just these ridiculous... It's the only pictures I've ever seen of any Trump family members not in the cake-decorated rooms, gilded rooms. So when they go out in the wilderness... to prove that they go outdoors once in a while, which I imagine they're, camping, quote unquote, in opulence with footmen and whatnot, and then they bring them an elephant and shoot it, and then they, just to show that they sometimes go outside, but of course you can't gild the outdoors, so the only other thing you can do with it is say, let's, take a robber baron era photograph of me slaughtering big game. And then do that. So
we have found somebody as repulsive as Ted Cruz.
There you have it. Yes, there are many, and they're repulsive in many different ways. But yeah, I've really been astonished watching some of that, and then watching the Ailes thing, like trying to figure out. I guess I feel like the same thing motivates him and Donald Trump alike. They both sort of. I'd love to find out more about the bikini sharing that used to go on at Pervalago down there in Florida.
Oh, I thankfully have missed that story.
Did you? Oh, okay, that was in one of the. That's just extrapolated from the New York Times story about how he treated women in general. But that was the story of the his days when he was with, I think, Marla Maples and living down at Mar-a-Lago, but he would invite, I'd love to know the mechanics of this. He would invite models over to Mar-a-Lago, and I guess, but just based on the idea of, I guess when you're Donald Trump and you call models out of the blue, because you can say, I have somebody go find me a number. You look through anything, any publication, and just say, that girl's hot, give me her number. And then you call them out of the blue and say, come to Mar-a-Lago. And they say, it's Donald Trump. I guess I'll go to Mar-a-Lago. He might give me $1 million. And they'd go, and he'd escort them around the property and show off all his gilded furniture, and then bring them to the pool and say, hey, why don't you take a swim? And they'd be like, I didn't bring a bathing suit. I didn't know what the hell to expect here. Wink, wink. Donald knows that they didn't bring a bathing suit. Don't worry about it. Here you go. And he'd bring them inside to a room, and there's a chest of drawers full of bikinis. Try one of these on. Go in the other room, and you can try that on. And they don't know what to do. And they're young girls, and they're models. Maybe they're even not worried about being in bikinis because they used to do that for work. And they would go and change, and then he'd drool, and then escort them out into the pool area and say, look at this another gorgeous Trump girl, he would say to the people who would be
there with cameras.
The admiring throng that he had assembled for them. And I'm sure I've been saying, I'm sure that he's totally not guilty of having set up hidden video cameras in the rooms in which he managed somehow to just get model after model to go put on bikinis in. I'm sure he had no idea they were going to comply and really didn't videotape them. This has not been proven. I must stress that this is merely
purely speculative.
Speculation, yes. But he totally didn't do it. And anyway, but just I thought between him and Roger Ailes, it seems to me like these two guys both have that thing going on where power, money, success, however you define it, is like they pursue it in its own, for its own sake. But I think they also sort of think that everyone always told me that, power is the ultimate aphrodisiac, and no wonder women love me, and it's okay that I do creepy stuff with them because they're getting something out of it. And anyway, it's natural for them because power is such an aphrodisiac. It's not me. I'm not pulling one over on them. They're reacting to the power. This is natural. This is the way it ought to be. And, they should probably kill Roger Ailes, but they can't do that. So instead they'll fire him.
Yeah, I think execution might be a...
We'll see. Why don't we experiment a little bit with it, and we may decide afterwards that it was a bad idea. And
castration? I'd be for castration.
Okay, we could start there. That's fine. I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas like Chris Christie, who says there ought to be a new law. Chris Christie
in his kangaroo court?
Yeah, new law about, and isn't that funny? Purging. Wouldn't that be great to purge the Justice Department with the snap of a finger? I wish I had thought of something like that. And how odd that somebody like Chris Christie, who got his bacon saved by that very plan when he was a U.S. attorney, should be the one behind saying, it ought to be easier to fire government employees.
Yeah.
That's a new one, but...
not necessarily a new one. I mean, we do have the precedent of the prosecutor purge.
Oh, yes. Well, sure. Yeah, they just want the idea of making it easier. Although I guess Republicans have for a long time said, I wish it were easier to fire, say, teachers, for instance.
Yeah.
I guess there's roots in a lot of things. So I don't know. So what else?
Yeah. How about that, Chris Christie?
He's a guy I'd like to be rid of too. Shortly, I mean, he'll be.
It will happen
governor.
Shortly, and here's somebody who, well, he's not going to go to jail because Chris Christie's don't go to jail. But the indictments are sort of nipping at his heels, are they not?
I hope so. And
so it was really ironic to see him there last night, and in his prosecution of Hillary Clinton.
Yeah,
given his own. interesting standing with the law right now.
Exactly. I mean, you would think normally he's not the guy to do that, but sometimes they just like to go right at the throat of a problem and say, we don't know what you're talking, like denying that things are plagiarism, deny that you're under indictment or nearly under indictment or facing a fraud trial immediately following your election or any of those things. He's a rather amazing choice to go do it, but and of course to level the accusation that, you know, or facilitate the accusation that the only reason that Hillary Clinton isn't under indictment or in jail now is, well, people like that don't go to jail. You just said the same thing about Chris Christie himself. He's enjoying the same privilege he thinks that Hillary Clinton is enjoying, except that the chief law enforcement officers, pretty much the top people in the current federal government, say, you know, people really would not go to jail for what happened over here. It's not just because she's a powerful person. It's just doesn't rise to that level. But of course, no Republican will believe that until it's about them.
Yeah, I don't know what it's going to take.
Yeah. We're not allowed to hold our breath for these things.
No.
Okay. So,
one more note about the convention last night, and actually the night before. It struck me last night when we had one of the very few people who actually did talk about what was supposed to be the theme, jobs.
Oh.
Did you know that last night was Make America Work Again?
Only
I mean,
because
had you
saying,
watched
hey,
it, you would have thought it was put Hillary Clinton in jail night again.
Yeah.
With a dash or two of Benghazi.
Right, true. Yeah, I only knew that was supposed to be the theme because everybody was saying, hey, I thought this was supposed to be the theme, and it's not.
Tonight it's supposed to be Mike Pence. Oh. And something else. But it's going to be Donald Trump, of course, is hinting that he's going to appear again.
Yeah, that's new.
And Mike Pence will get his speech and whatever. They'll talk about something else, but it's really going to be email Benghazi and jail her up. Anyway, the one person who sort of talked economy and jobs last night, there were two. One was the winery manager who, why do we have the general manager for Donald Trump Winery?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because it's Donald Trump's convention.
Oh, yeah. Well, all right. No other reason.
And the soap opera star.
Right. I heard about.
Who was so. And avocado farmer, who was so blatantly trying to appeal to women.
Huh.
It was disgusting.
Well, okay. I don't want to.
Following up on the soap opera star of Monday night. This is what they've decided is going to get the ladies for them.
They love soap operas, those women.
They love soap operas.
And avocados as well. Maybe. I don't know. Like for facial scrubs, right? I don't know. I see that on the shelves.
So there you go. This is how we get the ladies. We put soap opera stars on the stage.
Yeah, that works.
And it is 2016.
Yeah.
But it's the Republicans, so...
I guess so. I mean, that may be all they know about women, other than that I like to chase them around the desk.
And have them put on bikinis.
Right, bikinis. And there's also a few other places that women should be. On top of pianos is one place, apparently, that they like to put them. And never a pedestal, always a piano. Chase them around the desk and in the bikini changing room. Or, for others, I guess, sitting on the couch watching soap operas.
Yep.
Well, it's a worldview.
But not eating bonbons, because bonbons will make them fat.
Right. No, we can't have that. They have to be strictly disciplined soap opera watchers.
Hideous people.
Yeah.
There were a couple of other interesting things I thought that would be fun to talk over with you.
Yes.
Because rules were a big feature of the evening.
Right. Both evenings, as it turns out.
Both evenings, yes.
Okay, so what's where do you want to start with that? Holy mackerel. What a mess.
Holy mackerel. Last night was particularly interesting to me to see how Paul Ryan manipulated the rules
Yes.
in order to say, you know what? Whoever you're voting for, it doesn't matter. You're voting for Donald Trump.
Isn't that really the most... That really was something. I didn't realize that was going on until I saw the articles begin to appear.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there were... And this is something to think about, by the way. When if you're still in the there's not a dime's worth of difference between the parties, either policy-wise or how they work, or whatever, I guess we'll have to see how the Democratic Convention will certainly have its share of... well, despite what you heard, the ayes have it, if there are floor disputes. But this is as blatant as it gets, right? They had state delegations saying that reporting that they had, 10 votes to give to Ted Cruz and 20 votes to give to Donald Trump, and they were just up there like, okay, so that's 30 for Donald Trump. Thank you. And yeah, apparently... I don't know how
And you
much
could
was
lump
open.
it. Reince Priebus, after all of this, going over the rules and trying to figure out, we had that 10-minute interlude when they were looking at pieces of paper up on the podium, and Paul Ryan and Reince and their parliamentarian guy were all up there conferring. Yeah. They come out of it, and Reince Priebus essentially says, you're lucky you got to call your votes out on the floor for people other than Trump. You should be happy with that.
Yeah. Thrilled to death.
Doesn't matter, your vote's going to Trump, but, we let you say you have votes for Cruz.
Yeah.
Be happy with that.
I guess. And so, yeah, that's pretty amazing that you can't even cast your votes the way... It was reported on the news. Everybody knows what the results are. Or were, anyway. Yeah. Maybe we've all forgotten since then. But, yeah, for people who have never seen anything like this in action, it must be pretty surprising. And there are certainly a lot of people who have seen it in action, who've been Republican delegates for the past several conventions, who just say, yeah, I've never seen this happen. Of course, usually... state delegations are convinced eventually, because there's much more in the way of decent relations and good feelings between the camps by the time the convention rolls around, to simply say, yes, let's make them the nominee by acclamation, or let's all cast, or we're released as bound delegates because there's an understanding between the guys who dropped out of the race and the eventual winner to do this. But there are no such understandings this time, so that's sort of new all by itself. And then the notion that you can't even just cast some token votes for some other guys, even though everybody knows Trump is going to win. He's got to have them all. And interesting that he wants all of the adoration and acclamation without having done any of the smoothing of feathers that you normally have to do to build a coalition. It'll be interesting to see.
No, it's entirely by force. And this is particularly interesting when we had this big unity speech from Paul Ryan.
Yes.
Because that was his message last night. It's time to put aside our differences. It's unity. And then he totally stomps on the symbolic giving of votes to other candidates. Right. The thing that is supposed to smooth over previous divisions and make everybody happy and united behind Donald Trump. He just walks all over that, says, yeah, your votes don't count. Be happy that we gave you this symbol of saying during the roll call vote the other candidates' names. That's all you're getting.
Yeah. That's people have different ideas about what unity means, I guess.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, talking of unity, to see how that goes over when the House is back in session.
Yeah.
And Paul Ryan is trying to get his maniacs in order again.
Well, yeah, that'll be quite a challenge. But I don't mind seeing that happen.
I don't either, except I'm torn. Do we want another government shutdown? A month before the election?
Right before.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, sort of.
But still, yeah.
Well.
Right, then you think about the people who get paid or wouldn't if there was a shutdown, and you say that can't really ask them to go through this again for political advantage. I mean, I think we got enough. So
I think we've got
tough.
enough.
I see what you mean. Okay. Well, that is pretty interesting to watch. I guess, you know what else occurred to me? You mentioned that there's a question mark of whether we're going to see Donald again tonight. I guess it's a small question mark. I assume we will.
A small question mark. I mean, I already saw a tweet saying, he's going to be there.
Of course. But that's sort of an unprecedented thing. Normally you do not even see. They sequester themselves, the candidates do, in order to build the anticipation and excitement for the climactic moment of the convention, the balloon drop, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I'm not seeing, and it's interesting, is I guess it would only take you a second to think of what would you be seeing in the press if the shoe were on the other foot, if Hillary Clinton or any Democratic nominee appeared every night. I mean, the criticism would be overwhelming. I'm wondering, we normally by now would see the press saying, oh, aren't they worried about Trump fatigue? They used to do this with Obama. Isn't he overexposing, right? Isn't this a little Obama overexposure? He's out there too much. They need to pull back. People are getting sick of seeing Obama. It's like Trump is appearing every night at his convention, and nobody has anything to say.
Yeah, it's just, it's Trump. So it's fascinating to me. And now it's got me wondering how he can possibly top tomorrow night, his grand entrance, his World Wrestling, whatever entrance of Monday night. How can he do that bigger? Are they going to bring in a golden escalator?
Ooh, yeah, maybe something like that. A sedan chair of some kind. Like lowering them from the rafters on wires, flying. Jetpack. A jetpack that sprays gold dust, maybe, would work. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question.
Lord.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas showgirls, maybe?
Ah, there you go. There you go.
There's one of those old like a swimming pool scene. Maybe what was it Esther Williams used to do?
Synchronized swimming.
Right. And then
he rises out of the middle of the pool
kind of thing that elevates up. Right. So I'm thinking they probably, if he's smart, and he's not, but he is a showman. I assume that he's probably brought in, rock show producers or something like that, or Broadway show producers that can build an entrance-making machine of some kind for him. Did we ever get the hologram Reagan at the last one? we were promised.
Did not get a hologram Reagan.
Maybe now's the time.
Maybe they'll have him tonight. But no. He can't have hologram Reagan because that would upstage him.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
So
unless it's hologram Reagan introducing him. Possibly. I don't know. We'll see if they can work it out. Or he explodes hologram Reagan somehow in a gold dust explosion, and then he comes in. Yeah, I don't know. I'll be, I think, interested in seeing this, which is why we're not getting stories about Trump fatigue, because reporters can't get enough because everything is more ridiculous than the next. He certainly figured out how to avoid that charge.
He certainly has. I think, possibly it's just because everybody's so used to it.
I guess so. And they just and they spend time, like I am, speculating what will he do to top it. I don't know. And now I'm almost interested. Almost.
Well, I have to be because I have to continue watching.
Yes. Well, you gotta, give yourself something to live for while you're watching this thing. So, it's pretty amazing. And here's a nice comment one of the listeners, Parleo, has to say about the Unity building. kind of like it is he's right here, a CEO's idea of unity, compulsory team building exercises on the weekends.
Absolutely.
That really does describe it.
That's a great way of describing
The
it.
CEO thinks it's awesome. And isn't it great we got to know each other out of the office? And everybody else is like, my weekend. I don't have people to pick up my dry cleaning like you do. I needed to go do errands and spend some time with family and clean the house or water the garden or just sleep. But, yeah, thanks for the team building. Man, that's really about it. All right. Well, let's. What's the theme for tonight? What are we supposed to look for? Pence.
Goodness.
Right, I forgot that guy already. It's Pence. But
It's
also,
Pence. Yeah, it's Pence. It's his big night, which of course will give everybody a chance to talk about Sarah Palin.
I guess so. Yes. And
let me see if we can find what tonight's supposed theme is going to be. I mean, really, we do know that.
Yeah, I'd
that
like to
these
know
themes are pretty much. It's just all.
It's a starting point, but
putting Hillary in jail.
I guess so.
Oh, okay. Opportunity and prosperity. Make America something again. I don't know.
Okay, that's pretty
Opportunity, prosperity. So we are going to get Laura Ingraham. Woohoo!
Who?
Pam Bondi,
Oh, okay.
Florida's Attorney General.
I know her, right? The one who dropped the case for free because he tricked her.
Yeah.
That's good.
Eileen Collins, who is a retired astronaut.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Michelle Van Etten, small business owner. Kentucky State Senator Ralph Alvarado.
Okay.
Daryl Scott, pastor.
Huh.
Here's the
night three,
biggies.
Huh? Oh, okay.
Lynn Patton from the Eric Trump Foundation.
The Eric Trump. Okay.
Scott Walker.
Oh, I know that guy.
Marco Rubio.
All right.
Ted Cruz.
Wow. All right. That's big. All right.
Yeah, Eric Trump. We get Eric Trump Foundation and Eric Trump himself.
Yes.
Newt and Callista.
As a team.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. That's a lot of hair.
Probably. I mean, who knows the way that it's been going so far. Last night was a little bit more choreographed, a little bit more on point than Monday night, which was sort of a free-for-all. But
Okay.
yeah. And finally, Mike Pence, who hopefully will get on while they're still in prime time. One of the things that was fun last night was watching the senators trot up and thinking about Joni Ernst. Because this was supposed to be, Monday night was supposed to be, Joni Ernst is your superstar. Joni Ernst is going to round it all out.
I heard nothing. Breadbag Joni.
That's because she was like at 11:20 Eastern time.
Oh.
It went so long and was so bad that she was shoved in after. And I love the thought of Joni Ernst gnashing her teeth.
Yeah.
Watching all of her colleagues get prime time slots.
So it didn't work out for her, and that's what they were worried about procedurally yesterday in dealing with trying to sweep the rules fight under the rug as quickly as possible so that didn't happen. So they had the rules fight. It didn't change anything, and they missed their mark.
Yep.
Okay. Good job. That's Monday.
It's lovely when rules fights and disunity bleeds into primetime coverage.
Yes, and there's still a chance we may see some of that for the Democratic convention too, particularly if everybody decides to have a fart in, which I think they should put that on in prime time, to be honest.
It just doesn't have the same impact visually, I would imagine.
No, I bet it won't. And without microphones, it's just, I can't imagine. Also, I don't know how well that works in terms of really engineering something like that. And no matter what you eat, I can't see it happening
it's
on
just
demand.
going to be downright unpleasant for everybody,
Yeah,
including the farters.
it'd probably be pretty embarrassing, I would think. I don't think
I
that's
don't
going to
think
come
this
off.
one's going to amount to much,
I don't
personally.
think it's really even going to happen.
No.
Okay, well that's fine. They would have gotten the advanced press that they wanted out of it, and that's enough. And some people think any publicity is good publicity.
Even when it's really, really, really silly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that guy with the unpronounceable last name, Milo, the Breitbart guy, who got banned from Twitter for life yesterday.
Yeah.
Some of you know who he is.
For attacking one of the stars of the Ghostbusters remake, Leslie Jones.
That's what I understand.
This is the Twitter hill he decided to die upon?
I can't believe it. I don't know how the Ghostbusters thing became this. I don't know what even this cause for them. It
was probably because it was a black woman.
I guess, but I mean, there are black women.
I
don't know how you get to where you're like shocked to see one. What do you mean? And I guess I really have no understanding of it. Am I wrong that it's just it's chicks, so I hate it? Is that it? Is that all?
It's chicks, and there's a black chick too.
Yeah,
I assume. I don't know. I haven't really followed up on the entire story, but
I know a lot of people who are very happy.
He apparently has been one of the worst Twitter trolls over the years.
Yes,
and this was the last straw.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that he's gone. I know a lot of people were very happy about it. He's compared to the Chuck Johnson, that red-haired crazy one that possibly pooped on the floor somewhere. He's gone supposedly for life as well, and everybody puts this guy on a par with him. I don't even understand that guy, but apparently he was at the convention and they had a big party attended by all the worst people in the world. Pamela Geller, Chuck Johnson, and himself was there. All the people that really make you vomit when you hear their name were actually at this one party, which probably really should have been lit on fire.
Yeah.
And but they're all hanging out in Cleveland, and they're not even really being kept at arm's length by the convention attendees either. It's a really weird collection of people that are there. Even that Wilders guy from the Netherlands, Geert Wilders, has showed up as a guest of the Tennessee Republican Party, I understand. So he's partying it up. And Hitler dead. He's not there. But they'd have him, it seems.
It is most definitely Donald Trump's Republican Party now.
No doubt. Well, he just likes celebrity. Even though nobody knows who Milo, whatever his name is. All right. I don't know. So you're on duty again for live blogging tonight?
Tonight and tomorrow night.
Okay. Sleep in Friday? Maybe?
Probably not.
No. Right.
But maybe take off a little early on Friday.
Well, it's hard work.
And I am off next week.
Oh, are you? Okay. Well, good for you. Going anywhere or just relaxing?
Staycation.
Good.
It's getting my mother's house and acre ready to sell.
Okay.
So.
Getting those things off your mind is as good as a vacation sometimes. Clearing the plates.
But it has to happen, and it's going to be good to have it done.
As good as my vacations. My vacations are terrible. That's why I don't do them. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming by. I know it takes some time out of the day to do this, and it's a busy, busy time. Good luck with tonight.
Thank you.
And
thank you. Pop in if you feel like it.
Yeah, maybe I got to arrange to do something like that. I feel disconnected from the whole thing, but wow, it's so easy to disconnect yourself from Republicans and what's happening in their world, and it feels so good to do it.
It really does. I'm looking forward to next week tremendously. Although I will miss the Democratic convention, so I'll be watching.
Yes, but
won't
that's
necessarily be
maybe
chiming in on the front page of Daily Kos.
Very well. You know what? You deserve the time. Thanks for coming by today and sharing your thoughts about it. And then Congress is going to come back at some point later on down the road, and we'll check in with you on that.
After the 7 weeks of August, yeah.
Right. Yeah, the longest August ever. Okay, take care. Thanks, Joan. Enjoy next week. And, we'll look forward to hearing from you again in 2 weeks then.
Absolutely.
Terrific. Thanks. Take care. Joan McCarter, senior political writer, of course, at Daily Kos, closing out the show here and bringing us right up to our outro music time. There really is little else to discuss politically here in the United States at this point, other than the embarrassment that our country is suffering because the Republican convention is going on. But at least you can, once in a while, get a couple of chuckles out of it. What are you going to be chuckling at when it comes time for the after show to come around? I have some idea about that. Today being Wednesday. In fact, Wednesday's child is full of Whoa Wednesday. We've got the following coming up. The Texas Board of Education seeks to approve a textbook. And you remember what Texas and their Board of Education does with their textbooks? They want to approve a textbook on Mexican-American history that purports that Mexicans don't work vigorously and want to destroy society. Why even have a book? I mean, really, come on. This is just really nuts. What's going on? You want to write a book? You think you have a terrible idea for a book and you figure no one will ever believe what I have to say in the book? Move to Texas. You can sell it as a textbook. Okay. Well, so we got debt collectors are still harassing former students of the defunct for-profit Corinthian colleges, 2 Corinthians in fact, over its fraudulent loans, and public school defenders armed the Democratic platform to rein in unaccountable
Daily
charter
Kos Radio
schools.
on networksradio.com.
Amen.
You have been listening to the Kagro in the Morning Show
with David Waldman.
That's probably not an inaccurate description to say they armed the Democratic platform. They amended it so that we would be armed to rein in unaccountable charter schools. What else? On the last half, a federal judge denies the pretrial release for Rage Brush Rebellion militia leaders Ammon and Ryan Bundy. And a troubling study concludes, we have not been imagining it. Upward mobility has been a myth.